Los Angeles erupts into chaos as a brutal gunfight rages outside a bank in Lincoln Heights. A group of heavily armed robbers clad in full body armor and wielding automatic rifles unleash a relentless assault on the police, who struggle to fight back with only their sidearms. Just when it seems the robbers have the upper hand, a SWAT team arrives to turn the tide. High above, a helicopter hovers as officers Jim and Brian, along with two teammates, rappel onto the bank's rooftop. Moving with precision, they carve their way through the building, using a specialized camera to scout a safe path to the lobby. Meanwhile, SWAT snipers position themselves on a nearby rooftop, their scopes trained on the chaos below, while a third team advances from the ground. One of the robbers outside makes a break for it, sprinting toward a getaway car. Before he can even touch the door handle, a sniper fires. One clean shot, and the robber drops instantly. The remaining gunman continues his desperate assault, but the SWAT ground team quickly closes in, taking him down in a hail of precision fire. Inside the bank, panic sets in. The last two robbers, now trapped with their hostages, realize their plan is crumbling. The SWAT team sends in a secure phone, and a negotiator begins working to ensure the hostages' safety. Lieutenant Velasquez orders his team inside the bank to hold their positions, but Brian doesn't wait. Ignoring repeated calls, he drops down into the storeroom, forcing Jim to follow. Moving stealthily, Brian edges toward the main lobby, searching for the perfect vantage point. His defiance turns dangerous when one of the robbers, growing increasingly desperate, seizes a hostage, a terrified woman, and presses a gun to her head. Time slows. Without hesitation, Brian takes the shot. The bullet rips through the woman's shoulder, hitting the robber square in the chest. The final gunman barely has time to react before Jim takes him down, bringing the nightmare to an end. Jim rushes to the wounded woman, calling for an ambulance. But when Brian casually wonders if she'll be okay, Jim's frustration boils over. He snaps, furious at Brian's reckless decision. At the precinct, the consequences come crashing down. Captain Fuller is livid, disobeying orders, endangering a hostage, and now facing a lawsuit for negligence. His verdict is swift. Jim and Brian are fired from the SWAT division. Velasquez steps in, fighting to keep them on the team, even if it means demoting them to a humiliating role. Cage duty, the lowliest job in the department. Instead of taking down criminals, they're now stuck handing out gear to other officers. Brian is furious, his pride shattered. He lashes out at Fuller before storming off. Jim hesitates, and Fuller seizes the moment, offering him a way back onto the team immediately, but at a price. All he has to do is betray Brian, confirm his recklessness, and he's reinstated. Meanwhile, Brian, too angry to swallow his pride, starts packing his things, ready to walk away for good. That's when Jim makes his decision. He tells Brian he agrees. Brian was reckless. The words cut deep, and Brian's anger turns to betrayal. He smashes his head against a mirror before storming out, leaving Jim behind. 6 months later, Jim still trains relentlessly, determined to earn his place back on the team. But for now, he's stuck in the gun cage, doing menial work, watching from the sidelines as others take the action he craves. One day at the precinct, Sergeant Hondo strides in, handing Jim his customized M4 rifle for repairs. Jim immediately notices the custom work, nodding in admiration. As Jim gets to work, Hondo meets with Velasquez to discuss a growing problem. The LAPD is under fire, slammed by a wave of scathing media reports. The department is in desperate need of reform, and the chief wants action. Velasquez has a plan. He wants Hondo to build a new SWAT team from the ground up. To get him started, he offers 2 officers from his own unit, TJ and Michael. Hondo accepts, but insists on choosing 3 additional candidates himself. Fuller will have the final say. But for now, Hondo is in control. After fine-tuning Hondo's rifle, Jim heads home, only to find his girlfriend packing up her things. The tension is thick. She tells him things haven't been the same since he was taken off SWAT. He's distant, different. She leans in, offering a final kiss, but Jim turns away, refusing to hold on to something that's already gone. Without another word, she leaves. The next day at work, Jim reveals his latest invention to his partner in the gun cage, a giant hook and chain device designed to tear down walls and end hostile standoffs. He calls it the key to the city, an innovation he hopes to patent someday. As he explains the mechanics, Hondo steps in, listening with interest. He retrieves his rifle and takes a moment to appreciate the refinements Jim made, nodding in approval. Later, Hondo takes a group of officers to the firing range for some target practice. TJ steps up, showing off his sharpshooting skills and even managing to outshoot Hondo himself. But Hondo isn't fazed. He grins and bets $200 that Jim can beat TJ. With the challenge accepted, Jim steps forward, steady and focused. One shot after another, he outperforms TJ, stunning the crowd. Except for Hondo, who expected nothing less. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, across the city, a French mobster named Alex lands in Los Angeles. At customs, security almost confiscates his knife, but he coolly insists it's a family heirloom and manages to keep it. Outside, his men are waiting, handing him a fake passport for later use. Without wasting time, Alex heads to a local restaurant to visit his uncle, pretending it's a friendly surprise for the man's birthday. But Alex isn't here to celebrate. He knows his uncle has been skimming money off the family for years. After a casual meal and polite conversation, Alex strikes, his knife flashing as he silently and efficiently ends his uncle's life. He wipes the blade clean, then calmly walks out of the restaurant, slipping into a car. But his night takes a turn. A broken taillight gets him pulled over by the cops. Worse, the car is registered to his now dead uncle, who has an active arrest warrant. The officers run the plates, and within minutes, Alex is in cuffs. He tries bribing them, keeping his cool even as they refuse. But it's no use. He's booked and locked in a cell. Back at the precinct, Hondo recruits Jim as his driver for the day. Their mission? Find the last members of the team. Their first stop is Officer Deke, who's already in action, chasing a suspect through the streets. Hondo and Jim don't just watch. They jump in, sprinting alongside Deke as the chase barrels through alleys and across busy intersections. They manage to take down the suspect, but Deke is fuming. He wanted to do it alone. He cools off, though, when Hondo makes him an offer to join the team. Their next candidate? A polite, rule-following officer who makes a terrible first impression. Hondo immediately dismisses him. A vegetarian, too nice, too by the book. He'd never survive in this unit. Finally, they turn to Chris, a Metro officer with a reputation. Despite having applied and qualified for SWAT multiple times, Chris keeps getting turned down due to a long list of misconduct complaints from suspects. Internal Affairs sees red flags, but Hondo sees potential. They find Chris's partner standing guard over a battered thug, his face covered in bruises, clear proof of what happened when he crossed the wrong officer. As Hondo searches for Chris, he gets an unexpected surprise. Chris isn't a guy. Chris is short for Christina. That's when it clicks. Fuller never kept Chris off SWAT because of misconduct. It was because of her gender. When Hondo questions her about the complaints, Chris doesn't hold back. Most of the charges came from violent male suspects who couldn't handle getting taken down by a woman. Hondo likes her immediately and doesn't hesitate to offer her a spot on his team. Back at headquarters, Jim has had enough of the games. He bluntly asks Hondo if he's going to keep stringing him along or actually tell him why he brought him on this recruitment run. Hondo finally gives him the real question. Does Jim want to be on the team? Jim hesitates, knowing Fuller would never approve. That's when Hondo drops the real test. Did Jim betray Brian? When Jim insists he didn't, Hondo gives him the final spot on the squad. Later, during the official team discussion, Fuller predictably rejects both Chris and Jim, but Hondo stands firm, refusing to back down. Fuller smirks, offering a deal. He'll approve the team on one condition. If they fail SWAT's preliminary trials, Chris goes back to subway patrol and both Jim and Hondo will be kicked off the force. Hondo doesn't even blink. He's confident they'll pass. Training begins, and tensions flare when it's revealed that Jim's ex-girlfriend is Michael's sister. Michael assumes Jim broke her heart, and their heated argument nearly turns into a fight before the others step in. Hondo puts them through grueling tests: infiltration, armor handling, weapons training, physical conditioning, and precision shooting. At first, there are struggles, mistakes, and frustration, but soon, they start moving like a real unit, each one finding their strengths. During a sniper drill using playing cards as targets, they prove their exceptional accuracy. Then, in an empty building exercise, they practice rescuing hostages without getting them killed. Every session sharpens their teamwork, bringing them closer to becoming the elite force Hondo envisioned. A few days later, it's time for their biggest challenge, a simulated hostage rescue on an airplane. Terrorists have taken over the aircraft and the team must take them down within 8 minutes. Their opponents are fellow officers armed with paintball guns, ready to make this mission as real as possible. As they analyze the plane's schematics, Jim notices something no one else does: a tiny food tray elevator shaft. No full-grown man could fit inside, but Chris can. The team launches their plan. Chris squeezes into the elevator shaft, slipping through unseen. Meanwhile, the others locate a hatch, but just as they're about to open it, they detect a trap. Seconds away from disaster, they manage to defuse it just in time. Then, on the count of 3, they attack from every angle. The terrorists don't stand a chance. Within moments, the team clears the plane with surgical precision. 6 hijackers down, 0 hostages lost. TJ takes a hit, one that would have been fatal in real combat, but it's a small price to pay. Fuller watches, annoyed as hell, as the new team breaks the all-time record. That night, the squad celebrates at a cafe owned by Deke's father. They drink, eat, and unwind after weeks of intense training. Eventually, most of them call it a night, except for Chris and Jim, who head to Jim's favorite bar. There, things take a turn when Brian shows up. The air is thick with tension as he and Jim trade passive-aggressive jabs, their unresolved issues simmering beneath the surface. Brian leaves before things escalate, but on his way out, he smashes a framed photo of him and Jim on the wall, a final act of resentment. Back at the bar, Jim makes a move on Chris, but she shuts him down instantly. Instead, she offers something unexpected, an invitation to her daughter's birthday party. Across town, Alex tries to hire a lawyer, but she tells him there's nothing she can do. Soon after, he's transferred away, his future looking grim. The next day, the team finally gets to enjoy some downtime. TJ goes on a date. Hondo and Velasquez hit the golf course. Deke spends time with his kids. Michael stays home with his wife. Jim heads to Chris's daughter's birthday party, where he entertains the kids with a water rifle. For once, things feel normal. But just as they start to relax, their peace is shattered. An emergency call comes in. A hostage crisis unfolds in a Polish neighborhood, where a man has barricaded himself inside his house, randomly firing a shotgun out the window. Panic spreads as officers secure the perimeter. The suspect claims to have wired every entrance with explosives. While many doubt his bluff, Velasquez refuses to take the risk. Jim steps up, offering his key to the city invention as a solution. The team moves into position, attaching the device to the back wall. Within seconds, the reinforced structure is torn apart, leaving the suspect exposed. The unit moves in, subduing him instantly and bringing the standoff to an abrupt end. Later at the sheriff's department, a deputy digs deeper into Alex's background, uncovering details that confirm his true identity. The intel is immediately forwarded to Velasquez, who realizes the situation is bigger than expected. He orders Hondo's unit to intercept a prison bus transporting Alex, ensuring his safe transfer before word gets out. But Alex's gang is already ahead of them. Two men disguised as cops driving a stolen police car pull the bus over with flashing lights. As soon as the vehicle stops, they climb aboard, executing the deputies without hesitation before unlocking Alex's restraints. Just as they're about to make their getaway, Hondo's team arrives, blocking the street. The gang reacts instantly, opening fire. Chaos erupts as civilians scatter, diving for cover as bullets rip through the air. The team engages, dropping the fake cops one by one. Alex makes a run for it, jumping into the stolen police car. Tires screech as he speeds away, but before he can disappear, the team fires at the vehicle, forcing it to crash. Dazed and defeated, Alex is recaptured. It's soon revealed that Alex isn't just another criminal. He's an international fugitive, wanted in over a dozen countries for murder, arms trafficking, and organized crime. His capture is headline news, and as he's led into a holding cell, he seizes the moment. Facing the cameras, he delivers a shocking offer. I will give $100 million to whoever gets me out of here. $100 million to anyone who can break him out. The bounty spreads like wildfire, repeated across every news channel. With his immense wealth and resources, it's clear the offer is real. Suddenly, every outlaw in Los Angeles has their eyes on him. Hondo's team knows this just made their job 100 times harder. As the city buzzes with the promise of a payday, the unit prepares to move Alex to a safer location. The plan is to evacuate him by helicopter from the precinct's rooftop. The chopper approaches, blades slicing through the air. Just as it hovers above them, a single gunshot rings out. The unseen sniper's bullet strikes the aircraft, sending it into a violent spin. The pilot struggles for control, but it's too late. The helicopter spirals downward, crashing into the street below before erupting into flames. With the air escape no longer an option, the team quickly changes tactics. They'll transport Alex by motorcade, using cars and motorcycles to move him discreetly. The convoy speeds through the city, ignoring the crowds of people hoping to get a glimpse of the infamous fugitive. Everything seems under control until they hit an unexpected obstacle. A homeless man shuffles slowly across the street, forcing them to stop. The hesitation proves fatal. It's a trap. Gang members ambush the convoy, attacking from all sides. Trucks ram into the police vehicles, while others unleash a hail of gunfire and smoke grenades. A motorcycle cop is gunned down. 2 officers are wounded, and in the chaos, the attackers rush to claim their prize. But when they open the secure transport, they don't find Alex, just a doll in his place. The convoy was a decoy. The real transfer is happening below the city. Hondo's team is moving Alex through a private underground route, slipping him into unmarked cars, parked blocks away from headquarters. Velasquez monitors everything from the sky, watching as the real extraction unfolds without incident. Alex, however, never stops talking, hurling insults and flashing his wealth, repeatedly offering the team money to let him go. As they reach the second checkpoint, the mission takes an unexpected turn. TJ suddenly slams on the brakes. He pulls his gun, not at Alex, but at his own team. They try to reason with him, but before they can react, Brian appears, gun raised. With no warning, he shoots Michael, dropping him instantly. The betrayal cuts deep. Brian was the mastermind all along. He and TJ handcuffed Jim to the car before grabbing Alex and making a run for it, disappearing into the subway tunnels. Moments later, the rest of the team arrives. They free Jim and rush to Michael's side, calling for paramedics as they brace for what comes next. The mission isn't over. The team splits up again, with Hondo and Jim diving into the subway in pursuit, while Deke and Sekus race ahead to the next station. Hondo and Jim rush into the subway tunnels, but by the time they reach the platform, the train is already gone. They've missed their chance. Moments later, Deke and Chris report back with unexpected news. The train never made it to the next station. Realizing something is off, both teams head deeper into the tunnel to investigate. The train sits abandoned midway through, its lights flickering, the passengers shaken but unharmed. Brian and his men have vanished. The terrified driver points toward a storm drain opening, the only way they could have escaped. The team follows. But as soon as they enter the underground system, their radios go silent. They're completely cut off. Meanwhile, Fuller pieces together the betrayal, learning that TJ switched sides and that Brian masterminded the operation. With Hondo's team no longer responding, he grows suspicious. Could the entire unit be in on the escape? His doubts turn into action when he hears that an unauthorized runway has been lit at Hawthorne Airport. It's too much of a coincidence. Convinced that Brian is heading there, Fuller orders every available unit to the airport. Deep underground, Hondo's team pushes forward through the damp, narrow tunnels, dodging a swarm of bats as they track Brian's crew. Up ahead, Brian and TJ prepare a deadly surprise, a booby trap using a claymore mine rigged with smoke grenades. TJ watches uneasily, clearly having second thoughts, but Brian doesn't care. The SWAT team moves cautiously through the thick smoke, unwilling to turn back. Just as Deke is about to trigger the trap, Jim yanks him back, saving his life. While Jim disarms the mine, Brian's group reaches the end of the tunnel and locks the heavy gate behind them before slipping away. Moments later, the SWAT team arrives at the sealed gate, their only exit blocked. Jim doesn't hesitate. He repurposes the disarmed claymore, blasting the gate wide open. With their radios back online, Hondo quickly reports to Fuller, explaining what happened and requesting transport. But Fuller, still distrustful, refuses to authorize any further action and orders them to stand down. Hondo ignores the command. With no other options, the team commandeers a passing limo and speeds toward the target. As they race through the city, Chris spots something unusual, a low-flying jet. It doesn't take long to figure it out. The airport was just a distraction. Brian's real escape plan involves landing a private jet on the 6th Street Bridge. The team pivots immediately, shifting course to intercept. On the bridge, Brian and his men seize the jet's terrified owners, forcing them aboard. The engines roar to life as they prepare to take off. Hondo's team arrives just in time, but two of Brian's men fire off explosives, igniting a fiery roadblock. Hondo doesn't flinch. He drives straight through the flames, refusing to let them escape. The plane begins accelerating down the bridge. SWAT tries to disable it, but nothing works. Thinking fast, Hondo aims for the landing gear and rams the limo straight into it. The impact sends the plane skidding, crashing just before takeoff. A brutal firefight erupts. Gunfire echoes across the bridge as SWAT and Brian's crew clash. In the chaos, Chris takes a hit to the shoulder, but keeps fighting. Alex makes a run for it, but Deke is faster, chasing him down and recapturing him before he can escape. Brian, using a hostage as a human shield, makes his way toward the edge of the bridge. Before anyone can react, he rappels down toward the train yard below. Jim doesn't hesitate. He grabs a rope and follows. Meanwhile, Hondo finds TJ wounded and barely standing, guilt written all over his face. TJ admits he regrets everything. He asks about Michael, desperate to know if he survived. Hondo tells him Michael is expected to make a full recovery. There's a flicker of relief in TJ's eyes. Then, before Hondo can stop him, he pulls out his gun and a single shot rings out. Jim lands in the train yard below, scanning the shadows. Suddenly, Brian ambushes him, stabbing his hand before taking off. Clutching his wound, Jim pushes through the pain and takes off after him. The two weave through the maze of moving trains, the steel giants thundering past them. Jim tackles Brian and they crash onto the rails in a brutal, desperate fight. Fists fly as they battle on the tracks, exchanging blow after blow. Then, the faint whistle of an approaching train cuts through the night. Brian barely has time to react before Jim delivers a final crushing kick. The fight is over. Jim makes his way back to the bridge where the rest of the team waits. Fuller arrives moments later, finally forced to acknowledge their success. He congratulates them on a job well done, but reminds them it's not over yet. Alex is still in their custody and must be transferred to a federal prison. The team loads him into a SWAT truck and departs, ensuring he'll never walk free again. Sometime later, after completing the transfer, the exhausted team finally has a moment to breathe. A call comes through. A robbery in progress. Hondo glances at the others, pointing out they've already worked 12 hours past their shift. But without hesitation, the team nods in agreement. Without another word, they head to their next mission. He congratulates them on a job well done, but reminds them it's not over yet. Alex is still in their custody and must be transferred to a federal prison. The team loads him into a SWAT truck and departs, ensuring he'll never walk free again. Sometime later, after completing the transfer, the exhausted team finally has a moment to breathe. A call comes through. A robbery in progress. Hondo glances at the others, pointing out they've already worked 12 hours past their shift. But without hesitation, the team nods in agreement. Without another word, they head to their next mission.